are going for a whole hour. Straight dog talk and the song. Jump on in and speculate. Show up on time, don't be weak and late. We are community, so don't hate. And learn to cooperate.
What is going on, guys? Monday Bully Live. Today, we're going to be talking about calcium, how it can affect your dogs, how you could have a good-looking dog over here and turn it into something like this, all because you didn't know what the effects of calcium was and what it was that you were feeding. In order to go live with me, Mike, I need you to turn your phone sideways, bro. You're coming in. There you go. Let me go ahead and bring him in. What's going on, Money Mike?
Hey, what's going on, man? Can't do it this way right here. Can't do it like that.
There you go. That's perfect right there, man.
All right. What's up, brother?
Hey, man, we're going to dive into calcium. We're going to be talking calcium. Before we start, I do want to bring something up because I like to bring up conversations that I have with Mike a lot of times, only because I feel, it's important for me to let you guys in. So today we were having a conversation, Mike and I. And what was it about, Mike? I was talking to you about what in particular?
Well, we were talking about calcium and protein and how it affects the puppies. And we were talking about teeth and and puppy development.
Correct. So real quick, let me just jump up in here. Let me tell you a little something. So today, I was looking at my puppies' mouths, right? And it turns out I have 3 puppies. I have a total of 7 puppies, but I have 3 puppies that are bigger than any of the other pups, right? And 2 of those 3 puppies already have teeth. I'm talking about, you can see the canines out. You can see everything. And the one puppy that doesn't have teeth, you could see on the gum line, the teeth they want to come out, but they're just not there yet. And it is these minor observations that give you a lot of insights as to what's going on, right? And I'm going to explain to you how this has a lot to do with calcium, but it's really important to see where the puppy's teeth are because it gives you a lot of insight. First of all, if you have any puppy that is what's so-called the runt, right? And there you go. So a lot of people would say, okay, well, the smallest puppy in the litter is automatically the runt. That's not necessarily true. A runt is a puppy that got the genetic garbage, to say the least. Okay. You ever seen the movie Twins, Mike, with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger? Okay.
I don't know if I can admit how many times I've watched that movie.
All right. Well, they're supposed to be twins, and Arnold Schwarzenegger supposedly got all the good stuff, and then Danny DeVito got all the bad stuff. So Danny DeVito in that movie, he would be considered to be a true runt, okay? Just because a puppy is born smaller than the rest of the litter does not mean that puppy got all the genetic waste, okay? And one of the keys we can identify whether this is the case or not is by their teeth. Now, my puppies are, let's see, they're going to turn 3 weeks on Wednesday. I was checking out their teeth earlier today. So let's just say they're 2.5 weeks old, right? At 2.5 weeks old, say if the smallest puppy had canines all the way out and teeth ready to go, and he or she was smaller and feeble. And when I mean feeble, I mean they got thinner bone, they look sickly, they have a hard time gaining any weight, that yada, yada, yada. Then I could identify immediately that is a true, that is not necessarily a preemie. That is the true definition, okay, of a puppy receiving all the genetic waste, okay? If I had that at that point going forward, I would keep my eye on that puppy because that puppy may have to be put down. Okay. If we get to a point in time where that puppy becomes sickly again, or if within the 2.5-week period, mom is pushing him off to the side and ignoring him, this is a sign from nature that there's something wrong with that puppy, and that puppy should not be making it. Okay, that's what's really going on. However, if you have a small puppy, okay, and at the 2.5 weeks marks, you're looking at his teeth, and he's got no teeth whatsoever, and the bigger puppies in that same litter have full-blown teeth. Let me explain to you what more than likely is possibly happening. Okay, and I had to explain it this way to Mike. So dogs, their uterus, they have 2 horns, right? 2 horns. So think of it as green beans, right? You know how green beans are in a pod? Okay, so think of one green bean on the left side of the horn and another one on the right side. Okay, and you notice how they are set up, they're separated perfectly. Each little bean doesn't encroach on the other one.
Yeah, you mean the bean that's inside the covering?
Yes, the pod, inside of the pod.
Inside of the pod, they're all separate, yeah.
Yeah, and they're all separated. They're not encroaching on each other. Well, in the dog world, unfortunately, because fertilization is microscopic, a sperm is microscopic, an egg is microscopic, right?
Yeah, right.
What can happen is at the moment of fertilization, they can be too close to each other. And as time passes and this fertilization becomes, an embryo, and it starts becoming bigger and bigger, their placenta placements can overlap. Okay. And so the first puppy that fertilized, he's got his placenta completely on mom's uterus, but his brother, who was right next to him, his placenta, half of it, happened to go on top of this guy who went first. So this guy's getting 100% nutrition as far as his placenta is able to absorb, but this guy is only able to get 50% because 50% of his placenta is lying right on top of the other puppy's placenta. What ends up happening is this puppy, the one that's getting only 50% of the nutrition, his body has to make determinations as to development and growth based on the limited amount of nutrition that it's taking in. At the moment in time that they're born, this puppy may seem so much smaller. You tilted away again there, Mike.
Yeah, it's doing it on its own. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. What ends up happening is, that the puppy is born so much smaller than the rest of the litter that you then have to go into these little signs. One of the strongest signs that I go after is the teeth, in order to determine if it's a runt, which is a puppy who received nothing but the genetic garbage, or if it's just a puppy whose placenta, he had the bad luck that his placenta overlapped another pup's. If that's the case, then that puppy, even though they're born tiny, that's why you hear so many stories of, I always get the run of the litter and they end up being the biggest puppy. Well, in reality, it's actually very beneficial to be born smaller like that. And I'm going to tell you guys why. You guys are aware that large breed and medium-sized breeds, in particular bully breeds, suffer quite a bit from soft tissues. When I say soft tissue, I'm talking about cartilage, ligaments, right? Tendons. What I mean by that is they have a tendency for the bone to grow so much faster than the soft tissue is able to grow. So basically the bone outpaces the soft tissue. The soft tissue's blood supply Soft tissue does not have a vein, an artery going straight to it. Instead, soft tissue gets its nutrients through diffusion, which is a much slower rate of being able to absorb those nutrients. And therefore, if you don't know the exact amount of calcium that you need to be feeding your pups, you can do one of two things. You could either trigger, here, I'll use this as an example. You give me a second. This will be a perfect way to explain it. So what you can do without knowing, of course, is you could trigger rapid growth of the bone if you're feeding too much calcium at the wrong time. Keep in mind also that calcium, there's a particular formula between calcium and phosphorus. If you're giving too much calcium, you're not going to have enough phosphorus and you're going to run into trouble. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, the other problem you can have is if you don't have enough calcium or a way to absorb it, then your puppy can have soft bones. This is when you start seeing dogs that are bow-legged. Dogs shouldn't be bow-legged, right? They get something that's called rickets, right? And, there's really no correction to rickets, I guess, except maybe surgery and braces. If you're able to catch it soon enough, maybe braces. And also nutritionally, you're going to have to give, a 1-to-1 or even 2-to-1 calcium to phosphorus ratio, right? With other minerals and vitamin C in order to be able to absorb, and hopefully you're able to correct. So I said all that and gave you all that backstory because I currently have a litter and we're about to go into mush, right? You guys know I've made videos on mush. I've made videos on raw diets, on barf diets, so on and so forth. But here's the beauty, at least the way I see it, here's the beauty of what I do. And that is you need to constantly be learning or you need to be trying new things. Let me give you an example. You guys well know we spoke about months back about genetic triggers, right? And we spoke about how inflammation, right? This right here, here we go. This right here is a genetic map, and you're going to see little colors, right? Greens, blues, and reds in specific locations for American bullies in order to maximize whether it is bone girth, head size, yada, yada, yada. However, if you look over here on this listing, it's showing you the different pathways that are being used, right? And if you remember at the time, I even made a list of it, okay? The one thing that's going to trigger genes off and on have everything to do with inflammation. Inflammation is going to be an immediate trigger to the body, to the brain, better yet, and to the genes to shut off, because obviously something is growing either too fast or disproportionately. And therefore, inflammation is one of those things that will actually stop your dog from possibly even maximizing its size, right? But you guys well know that I have countered inflammation. If you follow what we've done it many a times. Coconut oil, ginger, garlic, right? I mean, turmeric with black pepper. Why black pepper? Black pepper so you could absorb, or the puppy can absorb, the most amount of the turmeric possible. However, I said all that to let you know why it is I test things out. And that is, there is no study out there by universities. I mean, I went to, Colgate University, which is really big on studies on dogs and whatnot. I went to different universities. no one has really done a study on turmeric and puppies, right? They haven't done it. And so I was talking with Mike because he recently had a litter. And I was like, hey, man, like, have you been feeding them turmeric? If you have you seen any negative or positive effects? So on and so forth. Because unfortunately, what we do as breeders or even as pet owners, right? A lot of times it is rather unfortunate, but it isn't the mainstream industry's best interest to help breeders that are making healthy dogs that don't need to be going to the vet, getting all these shots and, getting all these things. It's not in their best interest. Totally opposite. It's in their best interest to kind of shove us to the side and only study what makes money for them. All right. Just keeping it real with you. Now, guys, I know I've been skipping comments and whatnot. And trust me, we're getting into calcium, but I'm giving you all this information so you can have a better understanding when I get into the breakdown of calcium, right? Because truly, truly, calcium will either make your dog or totally destroy your dog without you even knowing. Okay, there are certain conditions that too much calcium can cause. One of the conditions that it can cause is an overabundance of tendon, particularly in the front. Okay. And a lot of times I have seen puppies walking around with this condition. And a lot of times people think that because they're showing bigger tendons in the front, right above their pasterns, that it means that it's going to be stronger. And unfortunately, it's the exact opposite. What it actually means is the dog is going to have weakness. That's what it means. The body's throwing as much soft tissue as it can into that area, but there's really no other compensation in the area above or below. And the bone grew too fast. That's usually what happens. That bone grew too fast. And then a couple of months later, you're going to see that bulge come out in the front. And it's because the body was trying to get that tendon there fast enough at the speed of the bone growth, which it will never happen, especially with large or medium-sized breeds. Okay, let me jump real quick to the comments. And before I do, I definitely need to shout out someone. And this gentleman who I'm about to shout out is none other than this guy sitting right here next to me. All right. I know he's having trouble with this camera today, but this guy went into the ring with his boy Pressure. This boy, your beautiful boy you're seeing right here. And this guy was one fun show away from, I would say, ruining the dog show, because if he would have taken the fun show, I think I would have never even gone to that registry again to show my dog, to be honest with you. He swept the floor. Money Mike, talk to me, man. How do you feel? How did it go? Give us a little bit of insight.
Man, it was unreal. I had such a great time. Pressure did so well. I can't even describe the euphoria that I felt having this experience. But yeah, I took him in there, man. It looked the best he's ever looked.
Tell us what he won, because I purposefully left it out for you to say.
Okay. So I learned in talking about it that when you win one, you win everything under it. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't know. It's the new YouTube software, I guess. But now it won't even flip for me.
Oh goodness, man!
Right
when we had you,
I'll just do like this, right?
There you
go. Well, I'm gonna try it this way.
Yeah, just leave it. No, just leave it there. There you go.
There it goes. So, yeah, I won best of show, and as many people well know, that best of show is something that XLs don't win very often. And for those people that don't know, best of show. So after you win first, and then you win best of winners, and then you'll win best of breed against other dogs of your breed. And then at the end, you'll go up against every breed of dog that's being showed that day in the ring at the same time. And if you can win that, that's best of show. And XLs being bigger dogs, we just don't win the best of show very often. Usually the smaller breeds are cleaner and known for having more of their breed type, and usually take the cake, man. But Pressure went out there and looked his best he's ever looked, and showed great, and we got it. So I wanna thank you. You know, you said hats off to me. Hats off to you, brother, because Pressure is 100% a QB Inc. production, and he's been a great pillar of our program. We're honored to have him. It's been a blast to show him and take him down that road, man. It's been really cool.
Well, man, I needed to congratulate you, man. I love Pressure from the day he was born. I knew when he was getting a little bigger, I knew he had to go somewhere special as he was, somebody that would show him and love him for who he is. Couldn't be happier to put him in yours and Christina's hands and your daughter, Faye. You guys did amazing. And, man, I got to tip my hat off to you, man. Nothing but love. Great way to represent Creek Bank. Great way to represent QB and Kennels, man.
Yeah, shout out to my people at Hillcrest Frenchies. They did a great job on the show. It was their third annual show up here in Clarksville, Arkansas. And the first year they had a sanctioned show, and this year they had a registry called here we go, TCBR.
Oh, the TCBR. Okay.
First time I ever been to one of their shows. They did a great job. Everything was really organized, smooth running, and all that. I enjoyed it. Had a great time.
Good deal, bro. Listen, we're gonna jump back to the calcium talk. I had to give you your flowers, bro. You're my brother. Number love, man. I got to give that to you. And also, talking about brother, Ricardo Camarena says he wants to be part of the brotherhood. And
pues claro que sí, cabrón.
Pues claro que sí, cabrón. We do this every Monday at 8 p.m. We're not doing Fridays anymore. So make sure to tune in or you're going to tune out. And trust me, you're going to want to hear this calcium talk, especially if you're having puppies, because I'm going to give you insight. You've never heard it anywhere else, nor will you. We got a lot of breeders out here that claim to be breeders, and they got all the hype and the hoopla. But either they do know and don't share it, or they really don't know and act like they do know and still don't share it. Either way, we're going to be giving it to you. Let me go real quick here on some of the questions. What would be your opinion on bow-legged, breeding stock, or pet home? Guys, K9, if you underfed your dog on calcium and they got a little bow-leggedness, I guess you could say is breeding stock. But, marketing-wise, you're going to have one hell of a problem convincing people that that's not genetic. So that's what it is, man. Christina Higginson saying, what's up to Bruce? Money Mike is a little sideways. He needs to drink a V8, man. Guys, K9 says, are bow-legged females able to produce structurally correct dogs? Okay, so guys, K9, it almost sounds like you're dealing with a situation. All I can tell you, my friend, is I will not breed to a bow-legged female unless she was in my kennel and I knew for a fact I was a dummy that caused a bow leg. Then I would. Otherwise, there's no way in hell you're going to get me to buy a puppy off of a litter. I don't care if the legs look straight. Not happening, right? There could be other things that could be happening genetically, right? Right now, we're just keeping the conversation on calcium, right? Caleb Weddle, my brother's from another mother's. What's up, Caleb? Nothing but love, man. Caleb Weddle, all the way out there. He does Tuesday night Dog Talk with my dude over here, along with Miss Amanda James Nixon and Bruce Lang, who you see here as well, every first Monday of every month, unless they got to work. Yeah, unless they got to work or something's going on, right?
They also, his wife Nakia had thrown her first ABKC show the same day that I won and swept the show down here. They did their thing down there in Alabama, and everything went great. We're super proud of them.
Good stuff. Definitely.
Yeah, everything went great. Adam Fields, you know, another one of our family members and been on the show forever. He's went down there and did his thing with Flex.
Yes, he did.
And before we get too far from it, I wanted to say my wife and I were honored to be able to hand out an award for the men's stack off in honor of Trayvon Mobley, and Hillcrest Frenchie did a great job of setting that up. They actually we sent them a picture and they had framed for us of Trayvon, and we were able to give a little speech and hand out the award, and it was really nice, man.
Trayvon Mobley forever in our hearts, man. Yeah. I will also say I saw Theo Fawcett representing BEK as well. He did well with the female he had over there. BEK is coming on strong, man.
Yeah, I think Adam got 2 majors, I think, with Flex.
Yeah,
and the Fun Show got the best dog in Alabama, I think.
Yeah, he's cranking it, man. He's cranking it. Old little Adam Fields, you know, back in January, you know, all hidden, nobody would hear him, and now you know, he walking around making sounds with a pep in his step.
That's right.
I'm just loving it, man.
Yeah, we're proud of him.
Hey, I got to jump back on this, man. Ricardo Camarena says, got my membership like I said I would last week. Let's go. If you don't have one, get it. I'm willing to be getting mentoring upgrades soon. Thank you, brother. Nothing but love. Guys, when you pay $5 membership for a month, we're going to have a one-on-one conversation. If you have this little symbol by your name, I'm going to answer your questions before the live is done. Not only that, if you ever have an emergency or whatever and you need to text me, you know I'm going to be there for you. Not only that, we also offer mentorship. So if you feel that you need mentorship, you're new, or you're even going to be picking litters or whatnot, we do one-on-one FaceTime. Just throwing that out there. Let me catch up here and let's get into the calcium talk. So I was mentioning earlier that I got 3 of the 7 pups of the 3 of the 7 pups are bigger. Now you got to keep in mind that in this particular breeding, I have. Let me show the breeding so people know what I'm talking about, right? So what you're seeing here. Hold on, let me take the comment down. Okay. What you're seeing there right here, my female girl, she is NI in the IGF-1. And that boy over there on Michael's side, that's Hector Eloso. He is double N on the IGF-1, right? So the IGF-1, and I've said it here before, it's nothing more than the mammalian growth hormone, right? So if we know that he's double N and we know that she's NI, if I sit here and watch my marker not want to work for me, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't. There's nothing I can do about that. All right. So let me just let me do the quick math for you, so you guys could see that what we're talking about turns out not 100% of the time, because we all know that genetics can sometimes not be exact, but we do know that genetics is probabilities. So if the father is NN, sorry about this, I'm trying to take it off, but it's not coming off for some reason, right? And mom is NI, then coming into this breeding, we knew that, hope y'all can see it. We knew okay, we knew that we were going to have 50% of the litter NI and 50% of the litter double N, right? So I'm not 100% sure because Embark has not come back yet. But if 50% of the litter is supposed to be double N, my best guess is that the 3 biggest puppies out of the 7 pup litter are going to be double N, and the other puppies are going to be NI. We know at minimum they're going to be NI, okay? And that's why they may be smaller, okay? I could be proven wrong because there's a developmental factor, and that's when I was talking to you about the overlapping placenta. That's a developmental factor. That is not a genetic factor, okay? And that's the reason why we're looking at teeth, okay, at roughly 2.5 weeks, because if the smallest puppy had, full-blown canines and teeth were out and he or she was feeble, then I know it's a genetic issue and not a developmental issue. If that tiny little puppy, if the teeth haven't come in and it's not feeble, and you've noticed that it's grown since it was born, then it's a developmental issue, which is a lot easier to fix, because when the puppy was inside of the womb, they were only getting 50% of the nutrition that they were requiring. But now that we're going to be going into mush, I can give them everything they need. That's not going to be an issue. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to give them more than they need, because that's when you're going to run into big problems too, right? So giving too much is a problem. Giving too little is a problem. So when I got into medical school, when I was becoming a nurse, I was told by a doctor once, you got to think of the human body as a gasoline gauge, right? You know how when you have a gas gauge, you don't want it to be all the way in empty. You want it to be all the way in full, right? But in health, it doesn't work that way. If you're all the way in empty, that's bad. If you're all the way in full, that's bad. But if you're in the middle, that's where you want to be, right? And I don't know why I just brought that up. I kind of just slipped my mind, but I just want you guys to have the understanding that you don't want it to be too much one way or the other. You want it somewhere in the middle. Oh, I was talking about the feeding. So if you overfeed a puppy and you make that gauge go all the way to full, what's going to happen is you're going to cause orthopedic issues in that pup. Those soft tissues are not ready to take on the torque in the bone growth and mass that you're going to be adding onto the puppy, okay? If you put it on empty and you underfeed the pup, then you may end up with rickets because it doesn't have the calcium it needs to make the appropriate amount of bone, if that makes any sense. So you want to have it where you're feeding as much as that puppy is developing, okay? There is
a sweet spot.
Yeah, as fast as they're developing, that's as fast as you want to be feeding them, right? Keep in mind, like I said earlier, calcium will trigger bone growth, okay, in medium to large size breed. And it could also trigger issues with joints. One rare issue that it can trigger with joints is transforming joints and soft tissue to bone. Okay, so it doesn't allow the joint or cartilage or tendon to grow enough, and it kind of puts it in the back burner while the bone is still growing. So it kind of just exacerbates the problem, right?
Well, let me ask you this before you go any further. So we have a ratio for putting together a raw diet per the weight of the puppy.
Yes.
So we determine by the dog's weight how much protein it needs and everything else.
Yes, but a puppy.
Do you on a puppy, do you calibrate that in the same way with supplementation like calcium and things like that according to weight? Or
let me answer. The what I've spoken about on raw diet and barf diet does not apply to puppies. Right. They require much more caloric density, okay, and certain things which we're going to talk about here that the adults don't. This is why you by the time your adult is a year old, you could feed them one time a day, you're good to go, okay? But puppies, on the other hand, they need to be fed more than once a day. Otherwise, they're going to wither because their growth rate, they're going through a super fast stage of growth, if that makes any sense. So when we say 3% is maintenance for an adult, 3% is not maintenance for a puppy. You
Right.
feed a puppy 3% of their weight, you got to realize they're gaining weight. So if you weigh them right now and you're going to feed them 3%, you're actually underfeeding that puppy, because that his potential is to grow, right? So you must be feeding a puppy no less than 4 to 5% of their body weight. And I want to say at minimum 3 feedings a day, at minimum. Okay. The younger they are, the more frequency in feedings. Why is that? Because if you were to only feed them twice a day, say you get up at 6 in the morning and you feed them and you leave and you come back at 6 in the afternoon, what happens to that puppy? An adult dog, after about 10 hours, they go straight into the catabolic stage where they start breaking down muscle into amino acids in order to create glucose to give themselves energy, right? Could you imagine what's happening to a pup who is burning through energy super fast because it needs to grow? And, within 3 or 4 hours, if they haven't been fed, there's going to be a major issue, a shock to their system, right? And then you're going to have underdevelopment of growth. You're going to have all these other things. This is why I would never buy a puppy that I see, for example, a bow leg or underdevelopment of growth. That's pure breeder negligence. What else are you doing and you're hiding that you're not showing me, right? Also, breeder negligence, which is a lot more common than the example I just gave, is having a morbidly obese puppy where you're trying to get the puppy at 6 months to weigh 120 pounds, and then that's when you have all these orthopedic issues as well. Let me go here real quick. Sulema says Nuvet NuJoint DS helps a lot with those required balances. Absolutely, Sulema. I was actually getting to that and you beat me to it. If you go into the nutritional label on Nuvet NuJoint DS, if you look at it on the minerals, you got phosphorus, potassium, zinc, calcium, selenium, all appropriate amounts and balances. Now, that doesn't mean you're only going to feed this supplement and you're not going to feed food. You must feed food. Okay. You must feed food. But the supplement is going to help you or try and keep you from giving too much calcium or not giving any calcium at all. Also, there's a good amount of vitamin C here that allows your puppy to absorb not just calcium, but other nutrients it needs, right? Not just minerals like calcium and phosphorus, but other vitamins, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, right? So it's really important to understand that, because if you're not supplementing your pups and you're seeing puppies that have rickets, bow legs, or you're starting to notice, man, these puppies are really growing upwards really fast. They're not opening up, man. They're just growing upwards. You're doing something seriously wrong. You're probably feeding in a way that is an unbalanced diet. Please do not tell me, oh, I'm feeding such and such puppy food. Okay, for me, that's a cop-out. We've already spoken what kibble is. Kibble is nothing more than dog food that has been put through a burner. And we already spoke about vitamins and minerals, how easily they start to degrade, which, kibble is being cooked at over 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Vitamin C alone starts to degrade at 140 degrees. And by the time it gets to 350, there's nothing there. And that's part of your problem. Now, if you must feed kibble, if you're not going to feed raw because you live in New York City on the 83rd floor and there's just, it's just your little tiny room in a closet and that's all you got and you just can't do it. I get it. My recommendation is, if you're going to feed kibble, make sure is adult kibble for large breed. This is if you have a puppy that's medium to large breed. Okay. And the reason I would recommend that, I'm not saying that's my first recommendation, guys. Please don't misinterpret me. I've always spoken on raw first, but I also understand that the great majority of you cannot do raw. A great majority of you may have three, some of you have 2 or 3 jobs and, you're trying to make ends meet, or all of a sudden, you're living in an apartment building and it's just complicated for you. I get it. If that is the case, then my recommendation for you is go with a large breed adult dog food, right? Why? Why am I saying this? Why am I saying this, Mike? Why do you think I'm saying go to a large adult size breed brand of kibble?
Because almost always that I've seen, puppy kibble has too much protein. And so you're almost, just by feeding them puppy food automatically, even though it's marketed as being the right food for a puppy, it's actually a little excessive on protein, and you're going to run into problems with the soft tissue versus the bone ratio there.
Close, but no cigar. You're close. You're close, but no cigar. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why. So it's not because the protein is high, but if the protein is high, that's something else you have to factor in, and you got to reduce the protein. But that's not the reason. The reason is that puppy food, okay, is made dense. It's nutritionally more dense than adult dog food. So say, for example, you have an adult dog that's, I don't know, 1.5 years, and you start feeding him puppy food. Do you think anything's going to happen to that dog within 3 months? You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I didn't know if you were asking or just, yeah.
I'm asking you.
I don't know.
Okay. So you don't want to feed an adult dog puppy food. You don't want to do that. That's the fastest way to screw your adult dog up. Unless it is a pregnant female or a lactating female, and you're just doing it for several weeks, I strongly do not suggest it. Okay. The amount of minerals, vitamins, and even caloric density is higher, okay, because the puppies need more, okay? But the reason I would recommend the adult food over the puppy food is because a lot of those minerals and vitamins are being denatured. I already explained that. But the too dense of food can also cause problems. Remember, I spoke about empty and full. You're giving dense calories to these pups. You can actually give too much, and it could cause a problem because the calcium that is being put into kibble has to go through an extruder first before it's in the bag. And there's got to be a certain amount of that that's also being denatured. So you're going to have a puppy that's going to gain weight, but it's not going to have enough bricks, enough calcium to either build bone, or you could have a situation where they spray the calcium after the kibble's made, and you may have a situation where you're having more calcium than your puppy needs. So the way around that, and again, this is based on my findings, guys, the way around that, where you're able to keep the puppy light, yet they're still getting the nutrients that they need, you feed adult puppy food. It is less dense, okay?
So what I was saying, it's more than what I said, but it's also what I said, correct? With the protein, it is too much protein for them also, right?
Well, it can be, but you may find an adult dog food, for example, that may puppy food that may have a lower amount of protein. They don't all have 30 plus. There are some.
They usually are, though.
Yeah, no, good. The more popular ones, I would say yes. Somebody was talking about Hill Science Diet.
And generally, like you said, they're not. They might be all that way, but generally the puppy foods are in the 30s, and that is really too much for puppies of our breed for sure.
It would be detrimental. I have found that high protein levels will make your soft tissue weaker. Okay, that's just a fact, because protein and fat is what triggers the IGF-1 to build bone. Remember, I said there's a scenario where the bone doesn't allow the soft tissue to grow because it's prioritized over everything. Well, that's what, excuse me, that's what happens when you're giving such high protein content.
So you want your fat and your protein pretty close together if you can help it, right?
Yes. And I'm going to talk about percentages, but really quick, Zilla's wife was talking about science diet. For me, what word can I use without saying garbage? No, I think I said it. For me, it's garbage. For me, it's garbage. And one of the reasons that it works, let me tell you one of the reasons why Hill Science diet may work in a scenario. Think about it. If you have a puppy that, say, is on Victor High Pro Plus at 30% protein, and you feed it Hill Science diet, which I think is inferior to Victor, and I don't think Victor is good at all, what happens is this is a bag of flour. So you're going to go from feeding high protein to feeding high carbohydrates, which is going to reduce the protein, right? And that's why you're going to, quote unquote, see an improvement. Because if I had a puppy that had weak pasterns and I realized I'm feeding a kibble that's at 30% protein, I already know I want to reduce protein to 15%. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to take out protein, right? So if I'm feeding this much protein, right, a cup, imagine that this is my container that I'm feeding them with. I would go halfway, take out kibble, and add either potatoes, sweet potato, or rice. That's what I would do. Okay. You don't have to do it, but that's what I would do. And then the other bottom half would just be kibble. That's how I would reduce the protein. Okay. And knowingly, this also works when you're trying to correct knuckling over. Okay. Knuckling over, and you're going to see the weak pasterns. Pasterns are going to be doing some crazy, funky things. It's because of too much protein in the diet. You're triggering bone growth, and the soft tissue is pretty much being neglected.
It can't keep up. It can't keep up. Right.
It cannot keep up, man. What do you think about Value Pack? Royal Bullies, you could become a member. We could definitely talk about it. But tonight we're talking about vitamin C, right? Adam Field says become a member for as little as $5 a month. It's well worth it. Number love, bro. Appreciate you, man. Nadine says garbage too. I couldn't agree with you more. Christina, super high protein makes pressure sick, super bad diarrhea, explosive for lack of any other word. Oh, goodness. Nadine says, along with Eukanuba and all the rest. I couldn't agree with you. I get people hitting me up all the time. So what's the best kibble for this? I don't know. Because for me, kibble is kind of like saying, what's the healthiest food? What's the healthiest fast food out there? Is it between McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's? Pick one. I love McDonald's fries. They're better than the other ones, but is it really healthy for you? Right? That's how I see it. I just want you to interpret that. My answer is raw feeding. That's the way to go. And when you're feeding raw, you must feed organs. Okay? Now, let me break that down, especially for those of you that are having puppies. Okay? And if you don't believe me, I have a video. It's called Fixing Feet. By all means, go check it out. See what happened to me and how I corrected it. What ended up happening is, better yet, what ends up happening is when you're feeding barf, it recommends 10%, okay, of organ meat, of which 5% is liver. Okay, I have sat here a million times and told you, do not feed liver, beef liver, or chicken liver, or any type of liver that you're able to get from grocery stores. If you do, you're going to get an animal that's going to have growth hormones and steroids in its liver. Okay, not because it was eating grass, but because it was injected into him or her.
Right.
And that's going to end up in your dog. And all of a sudden, you're going to be telling me, well, I did exactly what you said. I'm feeding raw, but he's growing like a freaking, he's as tall as a Dalmatian. I bought him as a Chihuahua. Yeah, well, what do you think that stuff did? In addition to that, think about it. If you're feeding steroids, such as those animals are being fed steroids and growth hormones, right? They're being fed that to a particular age because they already know the time of slaughter. You keep feeding that to your dog, and after about a good 3 to 5 years, you may have something growing out your dog's neck, and you're wondering why. And now you want to blame the breeder because he sold you a sick dog. No, he didn't sell you a sick dog. You sickened the dog without knowing by feeding him these animal livers. And that's the reason why I feed NuVet and NuJoint DS. All right. Why? Because it brings the vitamins and the minerals that the dog needs without me having to get that extra steroids or growth hormones that they definitely don't need. Okay. So I'm just throwing that out there. Now, what the conversation I was having with Mike, I was telling him, I said, you know what, Mike? The biggest boy in that litter, and I don't go after the biggest boys, by the way. I think I have only picked one biggest puppy out of a litter before. Now, he may prove me wrong, this puppy, but I don't necessarily go after the biggest. I go after the most correct. I'm a breeder. I'm not a pet owner. Pet owners want the biggest, baddest thing so they could walk in the street and get all the attention. I get it. That's not what I'm after. I'm after the correctness. Okay. This puppy may prove me wrong. He may be the biggest, baddest, but he may also be the most correct. I don't know yet. But my point is, I was telling Mike, this puppy's teeth, they hadn't come out yet. Whereas the other two bigger puppies, their teeth had come out. And so I told Mike, I said, these are the little clues as a breeder that if you understand what's going on, you could kind of finagle things a little bit here and a little bit there. That's all you can do. So what does that mean? Well, the fact that his teeth haven't come in tells me he's not as developmentally advanced as the other two bigger pups. That's what it tells me. Now, there's a variety of factors. It could have been that maybe he was fertilized 3 days later. That's possible. That's developmental. I don't think that his placenta was on top of anyone's because when he was born, he was the biggest. So I rule that out. I could be wrong, but I rule that out. It could also be that simply, he whenever he was in vitro, his body decided to develop his size more rather than his development. It could be a variety of factors. Okay. The point I'm getting at is the fact that he's bigger than the other ones and the fact that he's a day or two behind them tells me that once we go into mush, I should see a developmental spike in him and also all of the other smaller pups, which, by the way, they don't have teeth either, right? There's only 2 puppies out of 7 that have teeth, and those are 2 out of the 3 biggest. And the one biggest that doesn't have it happens to be the biggest of them all. So I'm excited about it. But it also means because of his development not being as advanced as the other 2, when it's time to feed mush, would it be pertinent for me to say, grab a chicken quarter, put it through the grinder, and let him eat it? Because when you're putting the entire chicken quarter, you're not only putting the muscle and the fat, there's also some joints in there, right? Cartilage in there, but you're also putting in the bone. And that's calcium, that's phosphorus. And I know for a fact that you don't feed puppies that age that amount of calcium or phosphorus. And I was telling Mike, I said, Mike, in the gray wolf world, right? Great. I always refer back to that. The alpha male and the alpha female typically are the ones that eat first. Typically, the way it works is Once the mom has had the puppies and they're old enough, she's going to run out. She's going to go eat. Dad is the one that's going to really fill, come back, and regurgitate. You might also get an older adult, maybe dad's dad, if he's still part of the pack. He may come back and regurgitate as well. But they're not regurgitating bone. They're regurgitating the meat, the fur, the fat, the stomach contents, but not the bone. So nature is perfect for a reason. And I'm just throwing this out there so you don't make the mistake and think, oh, well, we need to really smash in the calcium while they're small. That might not be the right approach. Okay. There's a reason why, wolves out in the wild can't break bone until they're about 3.5, 4.5 months old, and the second set of teeth come in. That's when they can break bone. Because when you overfeed an adult calcium, no big deal. They poop it out. They get rid of it. You'll see it in their droppings because it'll turn white, right? But for puppies, they're not ready for all that, man. And their body is in a different process of growth, right? So what am I saying with all this? What I'm saying is, if you have to feed kibble, again, get yourself large breed adult kibble to feed your pup. Make sure you have a supplement like NuVet NuJoint DS and roll with that. I'm not saying that
you're also saying, right, that by paying attention to your puppies and its developmental stage, you can get insight as to what special needs that puppy might have as opposed to another puppy in the litter. It could need a little more or less of one or the other, depending on if it was more advanced or more developed, rather.
You're absolutely right. The two pups that got teeth are showing you that they're more developmentally advanced. Am I going to sit there, or better yet, would it be more convenient as a breeder to those two puppies that's got teeth kind of customize their diet and customize the diet to the other 5 that don't? Or would it just be more effective to just reduce protein to 15%, right? Let everybody get teeth and slowly implement whatever I'm going to implement from there. I could tell you already, I'm going to be doing the second thing. I'm just going to reduce protein to 15%, let everybody's teeth come in, and as we're going forward, I'll implement other things, right?
Right.
That's what I feel happens to be the most effective. That's just my approach.
Let everybody catch up.
Yeah, let everybody catch up. Let everybody be as even keel as possible. And once they are, we're going to go forward. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be grinding bones for them. I'm not doing that right then and there.
Right.
What may happen by the time they hit 6 weeks, 7 weeks, they may get ground bone with ground meat, maybe once, maybe twice a week. Okay, but not every single day. That's how you ruin a dog. You don't give them that every single day. Puppies are not meant. They could go from having constipation. You could end up in the scenario, like I said, where the body prioritizes the growth of the bone over the soft tissue, and then you start seeing lameness. You might see him limping. That's how you start causing all of these issues. So in order to not cause all that, okay, if you're not feeding kibble, if you're not feeding raw and you are feeding kibble, just go to adult large breed, get yourself NuVet NuJoint DS, and set sail that way. Okay, NuVet NuJoint DS is not going to give you too much of anything in excess. It's going to give you just enough. Make sure to follow the instructions on the bottle. NuVet, you're giving 1 wafer per dogs that are 5 pounds or more. So if I have a puppy that's 3 pounds, I'm going to break the wafer in half. I'm not going to give them a full wafer. There's a reason for this, guys. There's a science behind it. And with NuJoint DS, right, it is completely weight-based. So depending how much your dog weighs, depends how many wafers you're going to be giving. It's really that simple. So let's go ahead and turn it over to questions. I know I've been yada, 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 but I had a lot to throw out there to throw at you guys. If you guys have any questions, hit us up now, and we'll definitely be going through it. I'm trying to skip and kind of see. I'm seeing questions here from many of you.
So let me ask an off the wall question. So when a mother has just had pups, you keep her on a steady feed of calcium. It was recommended to me to give the mother 1,000 milligrams of calcium through Tums a day, and that was just for her weight. I guess that's what he recommended, 1,000 a day. But my question is, that's for milk for her, but is it also do the puppies get any of that? So that, is that calcium she's taking? It's obviously for lactating, but is it also for giving bringing up the calcium levels in the puppies?
Okay, excellent question. First, let me just tell you this. Whoever told you that, I hope they were telling you along with feeding kibble or feeding raw with bones. The reason I say that is because 1 gram, which is 1,000 milligrams, is too little to feed a mama dog for medium-sized, large-sized breed that is actually nursing the pups. An adult dog alone is going to need anywhere between, I want to guess, off the top of my head, 1.6 grams to 1.8 grams a day of calcium. They need that. And that's without nursing a litter. So if you were to nurse litter, I would not eliminate the possibility of needing up to 3 grams a day, maybe even a little bit more, depending on the litter size as well. Do the puppies get that? Absolutely, they get that, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, the puppies definitely get that.
Well, I think what I was told is that each Tums is 500, and that two Tums a day was what was recommended for the mother.
I'm not saying that would hurt. In no way, shape, or form would I ever say that would hurt. In fact, it makes sense. She's going to need an extra gram. I just think an extra gram is too little. I think she's going to need more than that, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that was a bad strategy. I just think it wasn't enough.
Not enough, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, the puppies are going to be, absorbing that. The problem you have is, so let's do quick math so you could see the shock when they go into mush if you don't know what you're doing. So let's say in my case, I have 7 puppies, and let's say she's currently consuming, let's just throw a number out there. Let's say she's consuming 2.5 grams. Let's say 3 grams. She's consuming 3 grams of calcium a day. Okay. So let's say first off, she's going to take her slice of the pie for her body functions and everything else that she's going to need. So let's give her 1.6 of that calcium. That leaves 1.4 grams that now must be divided amongst 7 puppies. So that's 200 milligrams per puppy. So if I take them off of mom and I'm now going to feed them 600 milligrams of calcium, that's 3 times of what they're currently taking in from mom. That's way too much. It may be good by the time they're 5 or 6 weeks, but it's not good right now when I take them off of mom on day 24. You see where I'm coming at?
Right.
Yeah. So to the top and stop, my 4-month-old tries to eat more than my 11-month-old. Sure. How do you feel about a fasting day in the middle of the week? We do it. Our dogs fast 1 day every week, whether we're feeding raw or kibble, and I do feed kibble to my pregnant females. I've been asked over and over again, why is it that you keep chirping about raw, and then you don't want to feed that to your pregnant females? Well, I did feed it to one of my pregnant females for her entirety of her pregnancy and even post-pregnancy, and nothing happened. And I'm glad nothing happened. And I did it on purpose because if I'm going to speak on it, I need to be able to have evidence in front of me. Now, I didn't have the biggest sample size. I only had 1 litter. But here's the sample size I get that a lot of you don't. And that is, on a weekly basis, I may do anywhere between 10 to 20 consults. I have had in the past 2 years to 3 years, actually, I've had, I want to say, a dozen to maybe a dozen and a half people hitting me up that when the puppies were born, they were all dead. And it turns out, I had even told several of them, it's really important if the puppies are all born dead, you got to get an autopsy done. Otherwise, you're not going to know if the problem was mom, if it was an infection that she had during pregnancy, or something that she's going to keep doing going forward. Turns out a lot of them were feeding raw. Not a lot of them. I'm talking about these 12 to 18 cases. They were all feeding raw, and it all came back as a listeria infection. Listeria. Okay. Listeria is one of those things that if your female's pregnant and she gets it, it's going to go through her entire litter and wipe them out. That's what's going to happen. And that's the reason why I don't do it. Okay. While they're pregnant. That's just my choice as a breeder. If you can
control the variables of different bacteria and things like that, right?
The loads. Yes.
Yeah.
The loads. You got to keep in mind there's different standards for, say, dog food versus human consumption food, right? For human consumption, what's sold in the grocery store, it is sold raw with the intention of it being cooked. It's not being sold raw for the intention of you eating it raw, right? So there are some things that can come through. My biggest fear is not of one of my dogs getting listeria, because I feel they're healthy enough where, they might go into diarrhea or something. I pick up on it. We'll go to the vet. We'll get it fixed if that's the issue. The problem is if she's pregnant, there ain't no we're getting it fixed. It's game over for that litter. In addition to that, I do not like deworming my bitches when they're pregnant and when they're nursing puppies. I have seen studies in the past in veterinary books that are not being shown on the internet that explain that certain dewormers can actually affect the puppy's joints in vitro. Coincidentally, joints is the one thing that affects medium-sized breeds to large breed the most. So why would I want to go and mess around with that? You see where I'm coming from. So, and again, that's just a personal decision.
So what would you recommend be the latest that somebody would need to deworm a mother? You would do it before pregnancy, right? But right before, yes. I guess, to try to get the most recent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I am going to have them on raw feeding, and the moment usually I time them. Can you time them perfectly? No. But when I'm about 3 weeks out, knowing that they're about to come in heat, we're switching you over to kibble. That's it. It's that simple. I've dewormed you, I'll deworm you, go through the entire process, and then let you come into heat. If you came into heat and I'm feeding raw, I'm stuck. I'm going to feed raw throughout, and I'm going to eat my words. But at that point, I feel it's too late. Deworming you at that point, I don't know if it's going to affect your ovulation. I don't know if once you are pregnant, I already told you, I read on certain studies that it actually affects the puppies in vitro. In particular, women are pregnant for 9 weeks. 9 months. Dogs are pregnant for 9 weeks. So that first trimester in dogs, it's huge. and that's when you're gonna know. That's the exact timing where you would have to deworm if you're switching over from raw to kibble. I would not want to mess around with anything going on, especially in that first trimester. That's when you start seeing people showing you puppies online, unfortunately, with 2 heads and 6 legs and all this craziness. A lot of it is developmental. It's not necessarily genetic. And it's got to do with whatever they're putting into the dog at the time. So Christian Irajeta says, let me get a good understanding, Money Mike. Are we talking about the stomach medication Tums, Mike? Tell him, Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty much straight calcium.
Calcium gluconate. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you could get it without flavor, it'd probably be better, right? So, Mike, what do you think about our little calcium talk tonight, man?
I really like it, man. I learned a few things tonight myself, and learned some things when we talked earlier today. I think it's very important that people that are breeding dogs, whether it be just building a program or just pet owners that want to have a litter of puppies, I think that calcium is quintessential in that process to understand what it's going to do to the puppies, what it does for the mother. And so, I think it's a very relevant topic that we had tonight. Very important, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about calcium and protein and fat. And then I realized, look, let's just talk about calcium. Protein and fat is going to come into the conversation automatically. But if we add all the macronutrients in along with the minerals, then it's going to be so confusing and never ending. So I just want to make an emphasis on calcium. In order to not kill yourself and not have to jump through hoops and all that, if you're feeding kibble, just go with large breed, adult, go with Nuvet NuJoint DS. If you're feeding raw, do not feed liver, go with Nuvet NuJoint DS. And, you're going to be able to sidestep the many pitfalls that are laid there for you. Ricardo Camarena, does puppy need Nuvet DS or NuJoint? Okay. So this is an excellent question, Ricardo. I get a lot of people telling me, oh, I got NuJoint for my dog. And I'm great. Why didn't you get Nuvet? Oh, because NuJoint's the one for the joints. And that's what I need to fix. That's got to be one of the silliest answers. I don't mean to offend anybody. But Nuvet is the one that's got the minerals. We're just talking about calcium, phosphorus. Look. It's got vitamin A, E, C, vitamin B's, of course, vitamin D, vitamin K. It's got manganese, phosphorus, potassium, zinc, calcium, selenium. You need all that, man. Whether you're trying to correct your dog's front feet, whether you're trying to get your dog to be healthy. Also, everything I just mentioned is going to help your dog's coat. You know how many people hit me up talking about my puppy's coat is amazing. I was getting Nuvet to fix feet, and all of a sudden, the coat is great. Yeah, because we just gave your puppy a boost of vitamins and minerals that it really wasn't getting from kibble. That's what happened. And now
the NuVet with the NuJoint, it's like a yin yang, right?
Yes, it's a synergistic effect.
A synergistic effect where it's the perfect balance between the two of them. Will one or the other help? Yes, but not as much as both of them together. Together, they're the full spectrum of what the dog needs.
This is correct. In fact, NuJoint brings an extra vitamin C along with Nuvet, which has vitamin C. The amount of vitamin C they both bring together is actually perfect for the consumption of everything that is there. Real quick, Inserat is saying, my girl Cephras had no pups show up in the ultrasound again. This is her second try, no pups. Should I get her thyroid checked or what? Did all of everything with breeding done on time? Yeah, you would definitely have to get her thyroid check at this point. I would also, while you're at it, have them check her uterus for pyometria, right? Just in case. People tell me, oh, but my dog is clean and this and that. I get it, but sometimes you could have an overlapping vulva which can cause UTIs and cause more bacteria to be around and ends up in the uterus. Or your dog simply squatted down, and she squatted down a little too much, and there was a little bacteria that was able to hang on, and now you have an entire problem going on. I'm just throwing that out there.
My wife had asked a question earlier that we missed. It was the reason she asked is because we were asked today the same question, and I think a lot of people know, but I still wanted to hear it from you that the size of the litter can also affect tremendously the size of the puppies.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So if you had a 4-pup litter, they're liable to be little fat suckers more likely than if you had 15 pups, because 15 pups, there's barely room for all of them in mom in the first place. They can't be very big, not as big. And we had that come up today, and she was asking if the size of the litter does affect how big the puppies come out. Yeah.
Yes, that is correct. Jeffrey Crosby says Tums is calcium phosphate. And okay, so Jeffrey, let me correct you on that. And I think I misspoke as well, so I'm correcting myself as well. It's not calcium gluconate, like I said. It's calcium carbonate. Okay. He says that Tums is calcium phosphate. Now, Jeffrey, there may be a product made by Tums that has calcium phosphate, and we both may be right. There also may be a product made by Tums that is calcium carbonate. Okay, but you're saying, but giving a dog calcium premature during pregnancy can cause them to go into premature contractions, which lead to labor. This could be true. And the reason I say that is because I have said in my videos, when make sure to have Tums on board, because females like to take a break, right? Sometimes it could be a 3 or 4 hour break. You want to hit them with Tums. Make sure they're not going into eclampsia. And eclampsia or preeclampsia is when the calcium stores have been depleted. You got to realize that muscle contraction uses calcium. Okay, that's one of the minerals it uses in order for it to contract. So if a uterus uses up the calcium stores on the body, it's not going to be able to contract as effectively to get rid of the pup. And therefore, that's why I recommend that. So I'm glad he brought that up so we could clear that out.
So don't want to use it before the birthing process, but if they get stuck in the birthing process, it's a good thing to bring in. Yeah.
Yes, you want to make sure they have enough calcium. Adam Fields, no Hollywood. Yeah, listen, guys. Unfortunately, Hollywood, we barely were able to speak today. His area, for whatever reason, the towers are down. He's getting no communication and barely any communication and no internet. That's the only reason he's not live with us tonight. He's definitely going to be here next week. I'm glad you guys are asking for him, because that means, my dude has definitely connected with you guys. So I really, really appreciate that. Let's see. Camarena, look at you, man. You just became a member. He's talking about spin the wheel. Who's the lucky one, Raul? Look at you, man. All right, man. Let's get some wheel spins in here, Mike, because, this calcium talk, it
reminds me of myself a little bit, the way he's always wanting to know about this wheel.
Right? All these degenerate gamblers, man.
I'm telling you.
Degenerate gamblers. All right, hold on. Let me set it up. It's nice and set up. And let's see. Money Mike, I'm going to let you pick out a name if you can remember one off the top of your head of whatever comment. If not, I'll just go ahead and jump in. I know you can't see the comments on your end.
I can't, but let's give our new member a spin. We had a new member tonight.
Oh, look at that. Ricardo Camarena. He's the one asking for the wheel, and he's the one that's going to get the spin. Let me get all this thing out the way here. Here you go, Ricardo Camarena. If you do win, you got to say what's up to Money Mike for this, man. Here you go. Here we go. Oh, there it is. Jesus.
That wheel's
oh, man. That was close. That was close. Let's see, man. Look at this. Insaratha. Shade Tree says, Insaratha first spin. All right, Insaratha. This is coming from Shade Tree. I love it. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Insaratha. There it is. 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 I told you. There it is. Insaratha. Look at that. $100 Insaratha. Insaratha. Can you do me a favor and wait until tomorrow before you text Kyle so he could text me your information so I can send you $100? Or better yet, I'll make it easier for everybody. Let me just go ahead and throw my number on there. And Insaratha, do me a favor, text me your Cash App or however you want me to pay you, Zelle or whatever, and I'll definitely send the $100. I couldn't be any happier for you winning tonight. Let me see. Excuse me. Let me see. I agree. Give Insaratha a free spin. You know what, Adam Fields? You know what? I'm going to give you a free spin. How about that, buddy? Here you go. Adam Fields.
Yeah.
Adam Fields. Here we go, Adam Fields. There it is, NuVet. Nah, it went away. Went away. It was close. Let me see. Anybody else out here that was like super on top of things? Ricardo Camarena. We got Killer. He did a $2 donation. I appreciate
Jay was trying to give somebody else a spin, just like
she
Adam
was,
did.
but we've given Shay quite a few spins, man. I want to try somebody new, and let's see, man. Let's see. Oh, yeah. It's gonna have to be none other than Nadies XLs, man. Here we go, Nadies. Here we go. Free spin on the queue. Here we go. Free spin, and there it is. No. Jesus. All right, Nadies. Hey, you can't say we didn't try. Guys, that's what we got for you tonight. I've seen a couple of people talking about French Bulldogs. What's the best food feed for them? Listen, for smaller breeds, I know because I got a little Frenchie, you don't want to go be feeding adult large breed. They need, the smaller the dog, the more dense food they need because they have denser bones. Think about it. Everything shrinks. They have a good amount of bone, but it's shrunk down to a smaller space. So maybe we'll have to do a live where I talk about other bully breeds and what foods I recommend. In fact, that may just be a good live. What do you think, Mike?
I think so, man.
All right, so I'm going to write it down on my board, and that's what we're going to go with next week. We're going to talk about bully breeds. We're going to talk about different sizes and what I think the best foods are. All right? Listen, guys, I'm going to start it up with Money Mike. Money Mike, Mike.
Let me get straightened out. Man, I don't know what's going on. It's my end or your end. Hey, Money Mike, Creek Bank Kennel out of Arkansas. Your co-host with the most. I really enjoyed it tonight, y'all, and we'll be catching you on the next one.
There you go, man. Hey, you already know. It's Raul from the Q. We do this every Monday, and I'll be catching you.
We are going for a whole hour. Straight dog talk and the song. Jump on in and speculate. Show up on time. Don't be weak and late. We are community, so don't